So in the words of the legendary Ron Burgundy, boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast. Yep. Fellas, I don't know if you've noticed, since our last recording, we've gained like 2,000 YouTube subscribers. We've just blown up over the last week or two.
Boom.
And I believe now we are the largest XFL-centered show on YouTube. So thank you so much to all of our supporters out there, everyone who subscribed, even the trolls, even the haters. Thank you. And one thing that I've noticed is that since we've been growing and gaining more views, more subscribers, is that Kenny is by far the most polarizing of the four of us. I find it fascinating. You either love Kenny or you hate Kenny.
Polarizing doesn't mean the best, though. Okay,
let's keep that in mind, right?
Now. Like, just because he's very let me just go ahead and say this example. His own name, a guy from YouTube named Kenny, said Kenny does not speak for the rest of us. His own people
not even that.
Kenny.
Not even that. He said, yeah, we disown this Kenny. He does not speak for us. We disown him. Kenny, your own people have turned their back on you.
Like Colonel Jessup said in A Few Good Men, some people, you just can't handle the truth.
Oh, shut up.
And I guess some of our fans can't handle the truth. Look, there's been polarizing figures throughout history before. Martin Luther King, JFK, Stephen A. Smith.
Oh, my God.
Put me right next to him, you know?
I was going to say, you sound like Stephen A. Smith or Skip Bayless. That's what it sounds like.
I just can't believe he literally went from like JFK and Martin Luther King in the same sentence. He went to Stephen A. Smith. What?
It's Kenny Keller. Where are we going with this?
The Mount Rushmore of polarizing. It's Stephen A. Smith. It's Skip Bayless, Martin Luther King, and Kenny
Keller. All the haters out there, just know you fuel me. You give me fire to keep going. And to all the supporters out there, welcome to Kenny's crew.
Kenny's crew. That's right.
You know what's kind of crazy is a lot of these hot takes that Kenny's had so far have been the right takes, like the Chad Johnson one. People were bashing Kenny, and I was on Kenny's side, but for some reason, they all jumped on Kenny, like Kenny's a hater, give him a chance, and then he backs out of the tryout. So good job there, Kenny.
It's because we have everyone with keyboard courage, man. Everybody has the guts to say what they really want to say to Kenny, but they won't say it to his face. I love the comments. Bring them on.
Most of them are right. Let's not act like Kenny's right about everything. He got
he's not.
Ocho Cinco thing right. That's one example.
No, I said he got one thing right.
Okay, then let's keep it at that.
Give him credit where credit's due, but throw him a bone every once in a while. If he's wrong 9 out of 10 times,
Oh yeah, right.
I'll throw him some lipstick.
Okay, here we go. I think you guys are using burner accounts as comments now.
He's on to us.
Yeah.
But thank you to everybody who subscribed. Really, it's been amazing to see, and we hope to continue to grow. Obviously, as we start the season, going through the season, we thought it'd be a really cool thing to do, and we did this for our holiday show. Is take fan questions. What do you guys want to see us talk about? What do you want to hear about when it comes to the XFL? So we got a ton of questions. We're obviously not going to be able to get to all of them. We're going to go through as much as we can. If we don't get to yours on this video, we're going to try to individually get to them on the different social media accounts, whether it's replying to your question or posting a short video. So we're going to try to get back to as many people as possible because we really appreciate you supporting the show and asking the question and subscribing to us. So I think let's go ahead and get started. Kenny, since you're the most polarizing out of us, we may as well start with you. What's the first question from our fans?
Yeah, so C. Stipple on our YouTube community channel asked, if each of you owned your own team in the league, what would they be called? Where would you play, stadium and city? Their colors, general logo, play style, and coaches would you want?
I'll start off because as soon as I saw this question came in, it's all I could think about all day. Yeah. So I think I have a pretty good answer here. All right, so one, want to start in Las Vegas. We'd be the Las Vegas Aces, right? It has that double meaning. Go with the Pilots. You can go with, it's a gambling reference. I'm going black and gold with red trim, right? So I think that would look great. Now, the play in the new Raiders Stadium. Now, the best part of it, guys, is who my head coach, my offensive coordinator, and my defensive coordinator are, right? Head coach, the one and the only Les Miles, right? All he did was gamble and go for it on 4th down when he was at LSU. So he's got to be my head coach in Las Vegas.
I like it.
Right? My offensive coordinator, I'm going Mike Leach. I need a character for my LA or for my Las Vegas.
So I didn't know we were going ridiculous here.
I'm going Mike Leach. And then my defensive coordinator, I need a gambler. I need a guy who loves to blitz a lot, send the house. I'm going Greg Williams as my
Engage 8.
Go for knees.
Right. Engage
Greg
8.
Williams.
I'm sending everybody. I'm playing 0 coverage. Greg Williams. So that's mine.
Wow, he put a lot of thought into this.
I put a ton of thought into this.
Making me look bad, man.
Hey, I love it. That's probably the second best team that would come out of this. I think the first best team would be called the Hawaiian Tsunamis, based out of the main island of Hawaii. Now, I lived there for about 4 years. I saw the passion. Oh, come on, man. I saw the passion. The passion over there, that how much they love football.
Yeah, we see it at the Pro Bowl every year.
We got jokes. So I'm thinking
I've totally derailed him. He's done.
He's shook. I'm thinking black, white, and blue uniforms. We got a wave looking like Kenny's haircut right now on the helmet. Maybe some Polynesian tattoo going up the middle. And hey, who would my coach be, Bless? He's actually a current coach in the XFL.
Oh, it's got to be June Jones.
It's got to be.
It's got to be June Jones.
Wearing the Hawaiian shirt.
Let's bring it back, man. Let's bring it back.
All right.
Riley, who do you got, man?
Man, I did not. I literally looked at this right before we started recording. So I don't have like any coaches, but when I think of places to have a team, I think of one, they've been going to, NFL cities other than St. Louis. Mm-hmm. Places that typically, for the most part, support their teams. I said typically, not everywhere. So, but I think it's going to be New Orleans. And Glessner helped me with this name. I kind of stole it. Who was it that had it as one of their options, but they didn't choose to go with it? Was it the Pelicans?
It was now the Pelicans, but it was when they moved from Charlotte. It was just when they moved from Charlotte to New Orleans. They filed trademark for 5 teams, and Pelicans was one of the 5 teams, but it was also for the team you're about to say.
Okay, so it's the New Orleans Swamp Dogs. That's a pretty badass name. I like it. It's different.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it. I literally put no thought into this, just jumped on, and Gless helped me out. And I'm going to go with the old ball coach as the head coach. Why? Because he was my favorite coach in the AAF. Right now he's unemployed. He's looking for something to do. Bringing in a new team and bringing the old ball coach.
Golf course.
He's well
for the New Orleans Swamp Dogs. All right, Kenny, who is yours?
Yeah, so I actually put a lot of thought in this too. Like Gless, when I saw it, I was like, this is a really cool question. So I thought of what city is like one of the most beautiful cities in the United States, and I said San Diego. They don't have a team. They need a team. The San Diego SEALs, and that is a tribute to the Coronado Naval Base where the Navy SEALs train right there in San Diego. It's a beautiful town.
I like it.
I would build a new stadium because the Chargers stadium is super old.
Falling apart.
Yeah, it's dilapidated. I don't want to play there. And I would have yellow, white, and red colors like the San Diego flag. That would be my uniform. Now, my coaches, a little different. I would hire PJ Fleck as my head coach.
You love PJ Fleck. That's your boy. That's your boy.
Style.
He's a winner, man. That's what I would do. He's a CEO. He would run that team like a business and like a program. I would hire Billy Napier as my offensive coordinator. He's the head coach for Louisiana Raging Cajuns right now. Big time, next level guy. He's going to be the next big head coach in college football. Let's get him as my OC before he takes that next step. And then my defensive coordinator, and Gless, I know you're going to like this, aka your dad, Gary Patterson.
Hey, that's my guy. It's my guy.
Biological father.
That's right.
That would
Tom
be my
Glessner if I've ever
And the
seen
results say.
What is it, like Barney Stinson? Who was his dad in How I Met Your Mother? And he wanted to. Bob Barker on The Price is Right.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
That's who Gary Patterson is for Gless.
I know.
He's my head coach because TCU always does a great defense. He's always innovating on defense. So I think that's my guy. And guys, what's interesting about our next question is it kind of spins right off of this. And it's from Rascal 2019 Gaming, also on our YouTube community channel. He says, "Do you believe states like Wisconsin, Illinois, or even Ohio could house an XFL team?"
Yeah, so let's frame the question real quick. Is that based off of there's already 8 XFL teams? Because do I think a city like that could host it? Yeah, if they're part of the original 8. But if we're already branched into 9, 10, 11, 12 teams, I think that would dilute the quality of the product that we would have in the XFL. So I don't think expansion should be a thought right now to any of those cities. Now, if that city was part of the original 8, absolutely. I think any of those cities would have done fine.
Well, do you think, Brandon, even okay, so regardless of expansion or not, so do you think those cities, say that we could have, say there was enough product to expand, in your opinion, do you think any of those states or any cities in those states could host a team?
I mean, dude, just look at Wisconsin alone. I mean, you're looking at Green Bay, the fan base. I was down here in Savannah watching the NFC Championship, and they have bars dedicated to Green Bay fans.
But
you know why he's saying that, Glass. Glass, you know why he's saying that, right? Because his girlfriend's a Packers fan.
I'm saying their reach goes to the East Coast.
Yeah, but that's because they're a historical franchise, though.
Right.
I mean, they're one of kind of the iconic ones. I don't know if they would take on a new XFL team and be anywhere near as passionate as they are for the Packers. Right? They're kind of like those iconic franchises that, like, you're born a Packers fan. It's just what you are.
I think if they go north, and I know, Kenny, you mentioned this one team all the time. If they go north, I think they need to go somewhere for those months of February, March. It's so cold up there. They need to go somewhere that has an indoor stadium. So a place like Minnesota, Minneapolis, for the Vikings, or Kenny's been big on this one, Indianapolis. I know you're big on that one, Kenny.
Yeah, the town is awesome. They love their football up there. It's indoors, so you don't have to worry about the frigid February, March weather up there. And it's a huge metropolis city. Like, there's enough people there to support the team. Yeah. And I think Indy has such a good track record of hosting big sporting events and hosting sporting teams in general that they could definitely pull that off.
I think
I'm going to say two real quick. Columbus, Ohio, I think would be a really good option, just because it's a huge city in Ohio, and they love their football there, with Ohio State being there. And Ohio is a really good just football state, like the amount of colleges that are there, Division I programs, the amount of really good high school football programs, and just everybody seems to play football in Ohio. So I think that'd be a really good one. I know one city that Kenny's not high on, but it's such a massive market, such a massive media market, that I don't think you can avoid it, and that's Chicago. And I know they didn't perform well the first XFL time around, but that was a long time ago. I mean, we're talking close to 2 decades. So I think that would be an ideal spot, just because the media market's so large.
So we have options, and I think there's a lot of good options. I could see the XFL if expansion ever did come into play. I don't see why they'd have to stay south. There's options up in the north, so we'll see how that pans out if it ever gets to that point. Gless, what is the next question that we have from a fan?
Yeah, so this came on Twitter at ArenaFanKen. Thanks. Appreciate the question. I think it's a really good one for us to discuss. But he asked, how will teams retain rights to players so they don't have to redraft everyone again next year?
Ooh. That's a very interesting question, because we don't really know a lot about the contract situation. Is it 1 year, 2 year, multi-year? What is the deal? Personally, I would think that the contracts are just going to roll over to the next year. Like, I think they'll just retain your rights for the next season, because as of right now, there's been no announced free agency or anything like that. We know there's kind of a waiver wire thing, but as far as unrestricted free agency, there isn't. So my best guess would be for non-quarterbacks, your contract just automatically rolls over to the next year, unless you go and sign with the NFL or something like that.
Man, it's tough to tell right now. It's a new league, and I think the one thing fans have to understand is that things are very fluid right now. We're still in kind of like the test trial of how things are going to be run, and we're probably going to get a sample size early on of how like the fans embrace the XFL, and that's going to kind of dictate the future of the XFL. Yeah. So right now, I believe that it's just 1 year contracts. I believe right now, if everything was status quo, there'd be a whole new draft, 5-phase draft next year, going through everybody again.
No, you think that?
No way, man. No way. They're not going to draft 70 guys to your team again and start from scratch.
That's tough, man. So, like, what if you lose? Say the Defenders lose 10 players to the NFL and St. Louis only lose 2.
Then you have supplementary drafts.
So just 8 rounds of
Just
the
like they
draft,
did.
like go back to the St. Louis. Like where do you
Because the defenders,
compensate?
because the defenders lost that many guys after their original draft. That's why they had all the supplementary drafts. What was it, 2? I think.
I think they had 2
until they
You're
got
right.
to training camp. So that's a possibility. If expansion was ever in play, they could do what the PLL does, the Premier Lacrosse League. You could have a certain amount of players that you can protect, and then you can. The rest of your roster is unprotected for that team, that franchise to pick from. That would be so cool. Like the
it's like
strategy.
Keeper League.
Yeah,
It's like
basically,
Keeper League, yeah.
Like the
You get 5
strategy
keepers.
involved. Yeah, you get like a certain amount of players that you can keep on your roster. Like if they come back, it's they're coming back to your team, but then the other guys are unprotected. So I think if they went that route too, that would be pretty interesting to see how the strategy plays in it. All right, so let's go to Pastel.
Yeah, so on Instagram, we have XFL Delivery Guy. I felt the AAF had a lot of QB changes as compared to the NFL. Do you think the XFL will be more consistent with their starting QBs and sticking with them the entire season, or is it too early to say? Whew. I tell you what, I think we've already seen it. The original 8 allocated quarterbacks aren't the 8 starting quarterbacks at the start of the year. I mean, Luis Perez just got traded. So that we're down 1 already. Sources say that there's a battle in Seattle. So
There's
watch
battles
out.
everywhere.
I mean,
Yeah.
BJ
Houston.
Daniels might be the starting quarterback. St. Louis, I think we have a 3-way battle there possibly. Connor Cook down in Houston trying to fight out Philip Walker. I mean,
Yeah.
I would not be shocked. I told somebody on Instagram this. I told him actually, XFL Delivery Guy. I wouldn't be shocked by week 3 if only 5 of the original allocated quarterbacks are the starting quarterbacks at that point.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be – I think you're going to see a lot of different quarterbacks all year. And I think the evidence to your point here in training camp, I mean, they brought in really good quarterbacks even after they allocated the original 8, right? And then to your point, Pastel, like they already traded Luis Perez away, right? And they're already bringing in Nick Fitzgerald just came in.
Yep.
Literally with a week left to go in training camp. I think you're going to see a lot of different guys under center for a lot of different teams.
Agreed. Yeah. It's a new league. I mean, that's what's going to, it's a fluid new league and they're going to have to, they're working out a lot of quarterbacks who haven't played in a while and the cream will rise to the top eventually, but the first couple of weeks might be kind of a revolving door for some teams.
Well, and understanding the rule book, you have a 25-second play clock. You got a bunch of these new rules that some quarterbacks might not be able to adapt the way you want them to adapt to. I mean, we've played in this type of football system as they've grown up as kids, so that when you get these, I mean, say Ta'amu just is not able to adapt. Maybe a Heineke can come in and just pick up that type of rule book and that system better than Ta'amu, even though Ta'amu was allocated over him. Mm-hmm. It's going to be fluid. It's going to be fluid these first few weeks.
Yep, agreed. All right, let's move on. So Zay Martinez, this came from YouTube. Which of the new XFL rules do you feel the NFL might adopt in the future? I love this question. And the first one that jumps out in my mind is the kickoff rule. Because we all know watching the NFL that the kickoff it's basically gone. It's just there because it's there. If they got rid of it, fans would complain and raise hell. So they keep it, but they've basically eliminated the kickoff. It's like a ridiculous touchback rate in the NFL right now. The XFL is bringing the kickoff back, and it's going to be so exciting to have that play back in the game the way it was originally intended, except now it's safer when you have the guys lining up 5 yards apart from each other and nobody moves until the returner catches the ball. It eliminates those hard impacts, but it still keeps the play in the kickoff. So I could see if it's successful, if we get a lot of good action out of it. Obviously, the XFL's tested it a ton in the spring league and all of that. If it works out well in the XFL for this first year, I could see the NFL kind of taking a look at it and being like, we need to rethink our kickoff, and maybe this is the way we need to go.
Well, let's look at the NFL and what they've already changed in the past. They have changed overtime rules. They have changed special teams rules, right? So the NFL is not going to be one of those leagues that just changes everything. There's too many historical records that if you did that, it would be a trickle-down effect. So I do think you need to stick with the special teams. You need to stick with the overtime. So to your point, Riley, I think it's less about the excitement on kickoffs. I think it's more about the player safety. With all the lawsuits these days, I think they do have to consider player safety more into it. Honestly, to caveat off your point, my recommendation would be the overtime rules. Everyone complains about the overtime rules in the NFL and how the college football has it right. So I think if there was a league for the NFL to copy, it's the XFL's overtime rules to make the overtime relevant again.
Yeah, I like that, Brandon, but I think the biggest thing is going to be the replay. The replay system in the NFL is broken. Every week there's issues with, overturn calls, not overturn calls, missed calls, etc. I think if the XFL proves that the Hawkeye system's legit, that you can use it in professional football and you can expedite it within 60 seconds, that's got to be a no-brainer change for them. I mean, that'll help them speed up the game and really keep fans glued to the television.
Yeah, I was going to say the 25-second clock makes the most sense for me. Especially if games are getting long, they want to speed the pace of play up. I mean, some of these games are just getting ridiculously long with commercial breaks and, like you say, Kenny, the replay. So 25-second play clock may be another one that they take a serious look at. And I think it would take some time to get used to. But I think it'd be like anything else. I mean, when they instituted different timing changes in the past, it's all about players getting used to it. I could see them doing that down the line. But I do think Riley has the most ideal one, which is the kickoff. I could see that being the most ideal one.
Hey, Glenn, the reason I don't think the 25-second play clock will go into effect is the NFL doesn't need to. You're talking about shortening the game. The NFL ratings are at all-time high right now. Why would you shorten the game at that point? More commercials, more money, honestly, for the NFL. So as much as a fan viewer, I want to see a 25-second play clock and a faster game. The NFL saying, I don't need to do that. I'm making all this money right now. Why should I do anything to shorten the game?
Well, potentially. Let's see what happens with the XFL and the fan response to it. Right, like if fans ultimately want a faster game and a quicker game, more no huddle, more even more scoring, you may see it depending on what the fan reaction is.
Good point.
All right, let's go ahead and move on. Kenny, you have a question from the youngest fan for XFL Chalk Talk.
Yeah, pretty cool, guys. This guy, and let me give a shout out to his name's Jacob Ryder. He's probably our number one fan, like Riley said, our youngest fan. He emails me every morning with notes on the show, about how many subscribers we gained, all this stuff. He's one of our biggest fans, so we want to say thank you first, Jacob. But his question is about the double forward pass, and he says, does the first forward pass have to be behind the line of scrimmage? And the answer to that, Jacob, is yes. On the double forward pass, when the quarterback drops back and he throws it forward, as long as the ball doesn't cross the line of scrimmage, whoever catches it has the option to throw it again past the line of scrimmage. Once that's done, though, you cannot throw it anymore. Or if the quarterback throws it past the line of scrimmage, you can't throw it forward as well either. The double forward pass would be eliminated. I hope that answers your questions. And again, Jacob, we appreciate you watching.
Yeah.
All right, Gless, what do we got? Moving on. Next question.
Yeah, so this one comes from Joe Geiger Jr. on Twitter. That's at Joe Geiger Jr. The most anticipated matchup based solely on uniforms. And he says the one that stands out to him is St. Louis at DC would be easy on the eyes.
I'm scared to answer this one because, it's all, obviously it's all what your opinion is, but our opinions get bashed a lot in our uniform segment.
Right.
Like, what are these guys seeing? The LA Wildcats are the worst jerseys out there. DC Defenders one sucks.
Yeah.
But if I'm thinking about it, I think the New York Guardians black with the DC Defenders white and red, that would look pretty cool on a field. That's one that I'm anticipating seeing.
I like the Houston home uniform. So Houston's playing at home, and DC comes to town. So Riley, you and I think both agree on the DC whites. I do love the DC whites.
Man.
They are good. They're
very clean.
Hey, well,
they're great.
Let's talk about something that knows fashion. So I think you've looked no farther than week 1. How about Tampa Bay at New York? I think Tampa Bay's away uniforms are a top 3 uniform, and I think New York's home uniforms are a top 2 uniform. So I think week 1, Tampa Bay at New York, 2 p.m. on Fox. It'll be the game to watch.
I'm gonna go with the Wildcats at the Seattle Dragons in week 6 at Seattle. So Seattle's gonna have those home uniforms, which I thought were the number 1 uniforms that the XFL released, with the LA away uniforms. I love the LA away uniforms. Simply because of the all-white. I do like the home LA uniforms just a little bit better, but I just think that mix with Seattle, and I love LA's helmet. For me, that's the one that would be most appealing.
I love Pastel's talking about that he's the only one with fashion out of us.
He's
wearing an XFL Chalk Talk trucker hat right now.
Yeah, he's wearing a 2005 Ashton Kutcher call and said he wants a style back.
Ooh, there you go.
It's coming back,
Pastel.
man. It's coming back.
All right, Pastel, what is our next question?
Yeah, so on Instagram, we have New York Guardians.
Wait, the New York Guardians or just the tag New York Guardians?
It's the tag New York Guardians. I mean, it's not the one with the check mark. We'll go with that one, right?
There we go.
How are casual XFL fans supposed to get invested into an XFL team if players are constantly getting signed, cut, and moving to the NFL?
That's a great question.
It's a good product. At the end of the day, the only way you're going to get people to invest in the team is good product. Even if there's a high churn of turnover on the team, if you've got a good coaching staff and you've got a good foundation for the team, theoretically they should be able to replace players and be okay. That's the biggest way. That and interaction with the fans. Fans love to be interacted with.
Go ahead, Gus.
Go ahead, Pat. So I just had two quick thoughts on this. One, if you look at college basketball with the one and dones, people are still big fans of those schools. I know that's a little bit different because they're more than likely alumni and they've followed that team for a long time. But I think to answer his question is that it is possible. And then even if you look at college football, the same type of things. I mean, especially for a lot of those big schools, there are guys that are redshirt sophomores or juniors that go and leave, and yet they just keep refilling. So I'm not saying that it's ultimately going to take off like that, but I would say that it's possible, right? I think if it's a good product and good media and national media covers it, I think it's going to be pretty easy to get behind a team.
So good products will always win. But in my opinion, there's two types of fans. There's the fan that is just, they root for their hometown team. They're loyal to that franchise. And then there's the fan that are loyal to stars. So in the NBA, I would argue more fans are star-based. In the NFL, they're more town-based, right? So I think for the XFL, there's going to be some stars because of ESPN, Fox, ABC promoting these stars that I'm going to follow a Josh Johnson. I'm going to follow a Teamu, right? I'm going to follow a Cardell Jones. And then there's going to be some fans that just from the DC area, they're going to love DC no matter what. So I think with the promotions of ABC, ESPN, and Fox, it's going to capture both markets. So that's how you retain the fans that we have here in the XFL.
All right, let's move on. Jeremy Grace on Facebook. With some of the rules in the XFL, there are some fans that are skeptical of the league and how long it will last. Will the rule book be one of the reasons why the league doesn't last? In my opinion, I think if the league does last, it's going to be because of these innovative rules. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but just seeing the feedback from fans since the rules have been officially released, from what I've seen, it's been mostly a positive feedback for most, if not all, of the rule innovations that they've made. Obviously, we need to see it play out on the field and how it affects the game, but there's tons of reasons of why this league won't work that we've seen happen to other leagues, spring leagues in the past. But I don't think the rule book's one of them. I think with all of the thorough testing that they've done of these rules that they're implementing, I don't think they're going to put out rules that people are going to see as gimmicky, that are going to see as, cheesy. I think they're going to be rules that are actually meant to innovate and reimagine the game. So if the XFL fails, it could be a number of reasons, but I don't think it's going to be the rule book.
I agree with that. I think you're right. I mean, because, really, look, 90% of the rule book was taken from the NFL. Like, it's only a handful of rules that are changed.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point.
And granted, they're big ones, like the special teams rules, the replay rules, stuff like that. But they're not crazy ideas. Like, they're bringing special teams back into the game. Like, it's not like it's some manufactured thing. They're just bringing it back into the game, where the NFL, 90% of the time it's a touchback, or it's there's not a return on the punt, etc. So I don't think the rules are going to be the reason if the league doesn't make it.
No.
Why?
The only reason the rules won't work is because you have traditionalists out there that just don't want to see change. Like, if there's some guys just set hard in stone on this is how overtime should work, this is how the NFL, or you should have 2 feet in bounds. Those guys, you can't win those guys over, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So,
writers.
Yeah, so I think the biggest factor really is it's the week 1 games. If the week 1 games are successful, you keep everybody's viewership to week 2. If week 1 turns out to kind of be a flop, you're going to lose a big segment of these viewership. So I think week 1 is critical to the success of the fans.
That's kind of how the first XFL went. The first overall game was such a snoozer that it really, even though they got huge ratings, the second week, that LA game was like a triple overtime game. And then they lost the power. It was the whole thing was a debacle. But you're right, Pastel. Them coming out, hot and playing some good, crisp football and in showcasing these rules that they've tested so much and like getting it in front of the fans and like showing the innovation that they've brought into the game. It's critical for the first couple of weeks, but at the very least, it's not like the AAF where they were on, CBS, the main CBS week 1, and then next week you have to go on Bleacher Report to find them. Like, they're going to be on ABC every week, ESPN, Fox. So at least they have that to lean back on, even if, it's a little rocky out of the start, which I'm anticipating it being because it's a new league. It's going to take a while for people to get their feet under them. I'm anticipating the product getting better and better. So the fact that you're at least on those major networks throughout the season and not just week 1 is also going to be a huge factor in keeping people's attention. Yep. So thank you so much for everybody. We need to jump off here. But if we didn't get to your question, we're going to try to address it on social media. So be on the lookout for that. We're going to be doing these segments hopefully once every few weeks throughout the season. So keep the questions coming. Thank you for the support. And follow us at xflchalktalk.com and on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at XFL Chalk Talk. What's up, football fans? This is Riley from XFL Chalk Talk. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date on all things XFL and interact with us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at XFL Chalk Talk.